Good evening, YouTube. It's now 12:12 a.m. and tonight we're going to be going over the Kel and Kai Show artwork that I produced. I'm going to show you guys how I inked in Adobe Illustrator and then how I painted the piece in Photoshop. So shout out to Kelly Kel, shout out to Kyrie. You can check out their links down below and let's get into it. So starting off the piece, I already had my sketch from Photoshop that I placed into Illustrator, and my inking process is pretty simple. I'm just taking the hotkey P, so I'm taking my pen tool and I'm tracing over my line work, all the important parts. I'll actually have a pen tool tutorial soon in the future for you guys that are just getting into graphic design or just want to ink your pieces like this. So what I'm doing is I'm going over Kelly Kel's hairline right now using the pen tool. It's going to create a pretty sharp edge. The difference between Illustrator and Photoshop, the main difference is just that Illustrator uses vectorized art and Photoshop uses pixelated art. So with vectorized art, as you can see right here, I can zoom in all the way 100% and there's going to be no pixelation whatsoever, as opposed to Photoshop when you zoom in and you see them pixelated squares in your artwork. So this is going to come out a lot more clean. If I would have done this fully 2D vectorized artwork and vectorized shading, the piece would have been a lot more clean, like how you see the old school San Andreas Grand Theft Auto pieces. Those are all vector art. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stroke line that I've created with the pen tool and I'm going to make it a little bit thicker using the toolbar on the right side. Then I'm going to give this a little bit of an effect. I'm going to take the scissors tool, C on the hotkey. I'm going to detach this part of the line. I'm going to take this part of the line and using the profiles tab within the stroke toolbar, I'm going to taper off this line right here. And it gives us this nice effect, and I use this effect throughout the piece. I'm detaching points and then I'm tapering them off, detaching and tapering them off, and sometimes I'll use the already preset built-in taper effect that the stroke toolbar has. And that's the only thing I'm doing throughout this whole process. So you can actually create line arts just like this using strictly the mouse. You don't need a tablet to create this type of artwork until we get to the painting part. Then it's a little bit harder, although you can still use a mouse. So yeah, I'll speed through this part a little bit. So enjoy. So now that we have our finished ink work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to export the line art separately from the title. I want the type to pop out in the artwork, so I don't want it to be affected by the coloring that I'm going to be doing in Photoshop. So we're going to take this over into here, and what I've already started to do with the sketch is I've created these base layers that I'm going to create clipping masks onto with shadowing and highlight work, so that way the color is all confined to one space, whether it's Kel's skin or Kai's shirt or the microphone, as you can see that we're about to do right here. So what I'm gonna do is take the magic wand tool and I'm gonna highlight over the line art, and I'm just clicking in between the spaces where the mic should be colored in, should be filled in. And once I have all these little patches here highlighted, I'm going to be filling in the negative space of the mask, of that color fill layer, that gray layer that you see. I know it sounds a little complicated, but I'll have a lot more in-depth tutorials within the future where I'll actually show the full process. I know this is more of a speed art video and kind of just dipping our toes into the water. So now we're just taking the selection and we're expanding it so that it's completely filling out in between the line art. And now we're just gonna take the lasso tool again, hotkey L, and we're just cleaning up our selection a little bit. We're making sure we're getting all the spots of the microphone that we want to keep intact in the base layer. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the inverse of our selection and we're gonna black it out in the layer mask. And we're gonna have to clean up some areas here, some patches here that we missed, but that's pretty much our base layer now covered. And now when we add a layer on top of that to create our coloring or our highlights or shadows, we can just set clipping masks to that solid base layer, and that's gonna make our job a lot easier. I also like using the base layers because it's very forgiving. If you were to just paint this whole entire piece on one layer, there's gonna be mistakes, so it's very hard to edit afterward. Whereas using base layers that have layer masks attached to them, it's very forgiving. If I mess up Kel's ear, I can go in and edit it pretty quickly, pretty efficiently as well. So now, as you see, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of things. We're adding in some adjustment layers, curves and levels to make the room look a little darker. And we are then going to get our first light source right here from the side window. So I'm going to take the lasso tool once again, and I'm going to select the area in which I think that window would produce the most light. If you've taken art classes, then you should know light, how it moves on the surface of a form. And yeah, I'm just gonna basically recreate that here. So we're bringing in our light source by once again using a layer mask on the levels layer, and we're producing a little bit of light with the brush tool. You can still do this with the mouse, So yeah, now that we've got that light source, what we're gonna do is we're gonna play with the lighting on Kel and Kai and the shirt and the burger and the pizza and everything in the room. We're gonna have multiple light sources as well, so I'm trying to be wary of that as I work. So here we'll get into form a little bit on Kel, just basically guesstimating where that light is going to hit on the surface of his skin. And once I have that selection with the lasso tool, I'm just taking the brush tool and I'm going to lightly kind of brush in where that light should hit. So once we have that taken care of, you'll see a little bit that we've got a form finally, and it's starting to look like, oh, okay, it's a 3D picture. It's a painted picture. It's not really painted, but kind of airbrushed. Anyway, so enjoy. here's our final product. Shout out to Kelly, Kel, and Kyrie once again. Go follow them. Go check up on their new content. They're hilarious. This one has been a blast. I really had fun working on this project. Let me know what you guys want to see in the next one. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.